Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to this week's Productive Agent Podcast. My name is Tony Ruiz. I'm the founder and host of the Productive Agent Podcast and Facebook group. Today, I'm joined by the owner of Renovation Sells San Antonio, Mrs. Katie Edge. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get going, I want to thank you for you're running around like crazy. Have so many appointments. You're doing really, really well.
Thank you.
I see it all over Facebook. So definitely wanted to bring you on and talk about your business.
I appreciate it.
I also want to thank Eric Roberts of My Insurance Group as we're using his space here. Thanks for connecting us.
Yeah, Eric's a good dude, so I'm glad he could put good people together.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into it. Let's get to the nuts and bolts. Like I said, a lot of the episodes are geared towards agents or towards consumers.
Yep.
This one I think can be both, right? Because agents should know about your program, your business, and how it could help their business.
Yep.
And obviously clients and consumers can go, that might be something that I could use to help sell my house.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about what is Renovation Sells.
For sure, yeah. So as the owner of Renovation Sells San Antonio, my goal is that whenever clients go to list a house, if that house needs a little update, something to give a little sex appeal, help people to swipe, right? Then we want to make sure that we make that house its fullest potential. So just like real estate investing, you got to spend money to make money. We do the same thing, but we help the seller to pocket the equity in their house instead of the buyer. Because if you buy a house that's outdated, what's the first thing a buyer does? They go in and they say, oh, I want to get it updated. I want to personalize it. So if we take care of that for them up front, we can help the client to put more money in their pocket, and it helps the property to sell for quicker.
Got it. Yeah, a lot of great pictures. I love the before and after and seeing all that. You
Thanks.
shared that. So we'll get more into that. You're kind of new to this. We met about a year ago. You reached out to me and we had coffee with me and Christina.
Yep.
And it was a great conversation. And then you've been very active, talking to all kinds of agents all over the city.
Yep.
Seem to be doing well. How long have you been doing this?
Not that long, Tony. So just April of last year. And much like you've experienced, right, you get out of it what you put into it. And I have been in a hurry.
Sure.
And so really grateful for the success that's followed.
Yeah, awesome. What did you do before you did this, if you just started last April?
So 17 and a half years I worked in corporate at a big building right down Fredericksburg Road. And I worked a variety of roles, actually started on the phones, project management, but yeah, I was a corporate junkie before this.
Okay. And how the heck did you get into this thing?
So it's kind of funny because everybody's like, wow, that's like a pretty big leap, Katie. You never did real estate? I'm like, nope. Always wanted to, but real estate's one of those things that, you got to go all in. And I made a good 6-figure salary at USAA. So I wanted to make sure that I was in a situation to where I could make good money right off the get-go. And starting out as an agent, you got to build it, right?
Right.
So anyway, I got a call from somebody saying, hey, would you be interested in learning about business opportunities? Now, backtrack, even though when I worked in corporate, I had done direct sales on the side, and it turns out Katie loves to do sales. So that was really successful, so I kind of knew that already. But when I got this call, it was actually a franchise broker. And so franchise broker is kind of like a real estate broker. They just help you find the business for you instead of the house for you. Right. And somebody told me about a whole bunch of different different business ideas, and Renovation Sells was one of those. And I've always known I wanted to get involved in real estate because when you ask people, like when they're older, rich millionaires, right? What would you have told your former self? And they all say, get involved in real estate. Yep. So this was my way to get my foot in the door, and it was not a brand new concept because Katie's not super inventive, but what she can do is work really hard and follow a plan. Yep. And that's exactly what I've done since April of last year.
That's awesome. Yeah. You're crushing it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So I guess the biggest question, one of the questions I had when we met, it's like, okay, obviously I have listing appointments and some houses are newer than others. And then I go, does this need to be renovated? Does it not need to be renovated? Right. What can we do? What is kind of, talk to us about the consultation process and going, hey, yeah, this really could use some renovation or not necessarily fits the bill?
For sure, yeah. So, I get calls from you guys at 2 different time periods. One is like far in advance, like, hey, Katie, I have this listing coming up and I think it might need some of what you do. And then the other half of the time I get the oh crap call, right? Oh crap, I've put this property on the market. It's not doing so good. We've gotten the feedback. Now I need to do some things. So there's 2 different processes there. But typically you guys will call me in advance and say, hey, I've got a property, and I will ask you to run the comps, right? And I'll say, okay, what's the house worth in as-is condition? And if we get it pretty, What could it be worth?
Sure.
And so maybe you'll tell me 300,000 is the low end and you'll say 380 is the higher end. Well, that helps us to establish a budget that's appropriate for that property to say what could we invest. And then I'll look at what are the things that are going to make the most, return on investment, right? So the highest ROI are going to be things like kitchen, paint neutralization, a consistent flooring, depending upon the bathrooms, because bathrooms can get expensive. We can look at doing some updates there. And we have some tricks, some tools in our tool belt to help do smart things that really move the needle without spending too much, because we never want to spend more money than we know we can recover. So my goal is always for every dollar that the client puts in a property, I'd like for them to get back 2 or more. But of course, it depends on market conditions, what's going on, and then also the goals of your client too, because you could have a client who says, maybe they're pregnant and they're like, we got to make this happen fast. Okay, that's a great candidate for what we do. Or you could have somebody that's like, it's really important to me to get lots of money. How much money can I make from this, Katie? And so, because renovations, they're not always fun, right? So you have to figure out what's the right fit for your client and what's not. So I'll help you to make some of those suggestions, but you as the agent, you're the expert too, right? Like, that in this neighborhood, everybody's got granite counters and this guy's got laminate. So we know based on what's happening in the neighborhood, what might be some smart recommendations. And then I'll help you put that together.
Yeah. That's very cool. So who makes the design decisions? Do you have like a designer of like, hey, this is what's trending right now?
We do.
Because sometimes I haven't been in the business that long to go. That was a trend then, and now it's not.
Yeah.
But it's been
designs
known that
change. Yeah. So like back in the door, painting your front door red was like a big deal, and now black is the trend. You know. So for sure, designs change. We do have a designer, so everything that Renovation Sells does goes through a designer. But we have a couple of different processes. If you're in what we call our tier 1 houses, which is 300,000, 400,000 maybe being the higher end. We know there's some kind of basic standard materials and colors and things like that where we can just go really, really fast. Sure. But when you get into a nicer house, we go through our full design process. And what that means is I'll go in, do the bid for the client, present it to them. If they say yes, then we'll do a deposit, sign a contract, and we'll engage our designer. I'll do a Matterport of the property so the designer can be there with me, see all the things, and then they pick finishes that are readily available, sitting on the shelf, so that we can assemble something quickly and get that property sold. Because you as the agent, you'd like to sell that property sooner rather than later. Yeah. So everything Eric does, Eric is my designer, he'll make it beautiful and appropriate given the area. So what we might do in Spring Branch, let's say, is going to look different than what we might do in Alamo Heights, right? Sure. So everything's going to be appropriate given the price point of the home, because the finishes in a $200,000 house are going to be different than what's in a $5 million house. But we can literally do everything on the small end from a 200,000 all the way up to the multi-million, and he'll put that together for us. So design is important, and sometimes people think design is more than just color. Sometimes, man, color makes a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
And even I've had a house before that had olive green trim, Tony, and it had backsplash that had gold and red, and color selection can be so key sometimes, because the wrong color can just make someone kind of make a face. Yeah. And that means when you're looking at pictures online, you keep on swiping, just like online dating,
Yeah.
Doesn't look good, not going to want to come play.
Yeah, for sure. I do on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do property of the day, right? So I go in and look at houses. I'm like, oh, this is a cute house. But yeah, there's so many times I'm like, nope. And I usually just judge it on like the first picture.
Most people do.
Right? And it's just like, nope, that doesn't look good. You can tell by the picture quality, or, ooh, this one pops. This one looks nice.
Yep.
And then you start digging in. So that's the most important thing.
Pictures matter.
Yeah,
they sure
for
do.
Sure. Talk to us about some of the different projects from what are some of the smaller projects that you could get in and out quick and make a big difference?
So I've done stuff before where someone's handed me a property inspection report and they've been like, hey, Katie, I've got, these buyers want to buy the house, but they won't buy it until these little handyman repairs are done. So we can do that kind of stuff. I did one for a guy in the Dominion that was literally just texture. This guy had... the goal whenever you sell a property is you want to make it as much of a blank slate as possible, right? So I can maximize my pool of buyers, because if it gets too specific, right, automatically someone's like, oh, that's not for me, because most of us can't visualize. Well, this gentleman had really unique texture all over his walls. And you could tell he paid a lot of money for it. But it's not everybody's taste. So we literally did a texture only. And he told me, he goes, I've got a painter already. I'm going to use my painter, but I just need somebody to do knockdown texture on this. Cool. So we did knockdown texture. Took us a few hours.
Yeah.
So that's the smallest job I've ever done, some of the handyman stuff. But we do a lot of painting walls, a lot of painting cabinets. And then we've done renovations on a house that listed for $5.75 million in Hill Country Village. So we can literally do everything in between. There is no job, I would say, that's too small. But for sure on the smaller ones, sometimes I just tell agents, like, hey, if you got paint and carpet only, shoot me a text and I can give you a ballpark figure. And if the client's interested, I'll come take a look at it.
Yeah.
But I want to be a tool in your tool belt so we can help you make some smart decisions, value my time, just like valuing yours, right? You wouldn't want somebody to say, hey, Katie, let's go drive around and look at houses all day and then not actually buy a house, right?
Yeah.
But if I can give guidance to you and feedback that, like, hey, on average, you're looking at this price range. I have realtors that text me pictures all the time, and I'm happy to be a resource in that way.
Well, just listening to you so far today in this interview, I mean, I'm learning more about your business than I knew a year ago. And you mentioned something about, the inspection report going, hey, we need these things done.
Yep.
So obviously, I'm sure you're probably not going to turn away any job. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about kind of the pre-listing, preparing a house to list it.
Yeah.
But if somebody buys a house and wants some work done, you do the same thing, I'm assuming.
We do. I'm not always a good fit for buyers, and I'll tell you why. So if you're going to live in it, you want to personalize it for your likes and your tastes. Yeah. And a lot of times when it comes to design, it's a very emotional process. Real estate is very emotional, Tony.
Yeah.
So whenever they want to live in it, most people want to sit down with a designer and they want to touch it and feel it, and they want to take home samples and call you on a Saturday and ask you about, like, Katie, I just don't know how this paint would go with this carpet, would go with this tile. And that's just, you're going to pay more for that, right? We are designed for homeowners who are going to make quick decisions. They don't want to be super involved in the process, and they dang sure don't want to go to a design center and deal with it. I'll give you a great example. We're doing a house right now for a real estate agent who knows our business. And she was like, yeah, I was really interested in doing the whole thing where I have to spend a lot of time because I'm busy.
Right.
She goes, but she sent us some pictures. Turns out she likes Santa Barbara things. And so our designer was able to incorporate her style into design boards. We made one small modification and she's happy. She's on her way. She doesn't have to mess with it. So it's for buyers who are not picky choosy, who are like, hey, I value my time and I trust to not be too hands-on in the decision-making. Those are good people who are good fits for us.
Sure.
But for the average seller, in theory, right, they're moving on.
Yeah.
They're not going to live in it anymore.
Right.
So they're able to delegate a lot of that. So that's why we primarily do a lot of work for sellers.
Yeah. I have a seller in mind that I'm probably going to send this podcast to.
I love it.
Because, they have a beautiful house. I love the location. Great lot, all the things, and some of this stuff just needs to be updated.
Yep.
And not always they go, oh man, I have to contact somebody, I have to do it myself, I have to. It's like, hey, let's just bring in somebody, take care of it, job's done.
Yeah, I work with a lot of agents. So like Dominion is an area where people value the renovation, where you can spend $200,000 and get $400,000 in equity out of it. That's a smart investment.
Right.
So for people really want to maximize and they're like, hey, I've got this property, this is a really great strategy.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that y'all don't do?
So we don't move walls. So if you want to do an addition or add on a bathroom, that's just more extensive than we go. Our specialty is cosmetics.
Okay.
So just kind of think of like where the potty goes is where the potty goes. Countertops, reskinning. I say Botox for your house. Just give it a nice fresh facelift so that it can see its fullest potential, and it allows us to go a lot quicker that way. Because if you start doing demo reno and moving walls, it really elongates the process. And my goal is quick cosmetic renovations so you can get it on the market fast.
Got it. Yeah. So y'all do a lot of different things, cosmetic focus. What kind of contractors y'all have? Connections to different contractors?
Everything. So we're a one-stop shop. So we can do painting, we can do electrical, we can do plumbing, we can do tile work, we can do glass work, we can do windows, we can do any kind of little handyman repair, but we do it all. So if you have like out-of-state, out-of-city homeowners, for instance, those are great projects for us. Some of my favorite real estate agents, they'll talk to their clients, explain the value, text me a phone number, and that's the extent of their involvement. And then I just kind of keep them updated like, hey, it's like looking like we're going to finish here. You'll want to go ahead and schedule your cleaner and your photographer. And that's really it. So they can go and sell houses and I take care of all of that. So especially if you're an agent who's ever coordinated subs, or maybe you've met a painter at a house before, or you've thrown mulch in your front yard, like you don't have to do it anymore. We do it all, one-stop shop.
Gotcha. So you mentioned mulch. So you also do exterior stuff?
We sure do, yeah.
okay.
So we'll do, we've done some cute little French drains before, just light landscaping, painting shutters, doing some exterior work, power washing. Like if you've had like rotted exterior that has had to be replaced, painting the exterior, all of that. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. So we can do interior and exterior. Now I probably won't lay sod for you.
Sure.
But in San Antonio, it's going to die anyway. So yeah, but yeah, exterior as well. Absolutely.
All right. Well, cool. That's good to know. I love the idea of one-stop shop.
Yep.
All right. Because I'm going, okay, who's the best plumber? Who's the best electrician? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, just go here and it's all taken care of.
Well, and I think when you first start in real estate, like you're just trying to hustle, right? And so like, I know a lot of agents who are like, oh, I'll paint your front door for you and I'll, do this and that. But as you grow in your career and you start to value your time, you realize that like, hey, I can make more money selling real estate than I can from doing this. And of course you want to serve your client, but the difference between somebody who paints the front door and says, I got a guy for that, is the guy that says, I got a guy for that. That guy's the boss.
Yeah.
He has people for that, right?
For
so
sure.
As agents mature in their business, they start to realize that like I can spend more of my time selling houses and get my clients taken care of by referring out.
Yeah.
So we like to say that we're a trusted partner and that you can send your clients to us. We'll take care of all that. You go sell the house and then I'll let you know when it's done.
Love it. You mentioned timeline. What would you say is your average timeline? Like somebody's like, hey, we want to get this house up and running. Like, let's get it on the market.
It depends. So it depends on what you're going to do, right? But if we're just going to paint, I mean, I've knocked out painting in a week before, right. Sometimes less if it's a small house. Little kitchen reno, probably a couple weeks. There are two different types of countertop material that I keep in stock so that we can fly. So I've had friends that have used me in the past for their own personal countertops because we're the same price as Lowe's, and Lowe's is 6 weeks and I'm like 1 to 2.
Sure.
So sometimes it's just a matter of like speed and efficiency. But if we're going to do full on design in bathrooms, that could be like a 4-week, 6-week situation. It just depends how extensive. But compared to the average bear, going to be way faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So this all sounds incredible. All right. It's exciting. It's like, oh yeah, let's do it.
Yep.
So talk to us about costs.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it depends is a good answer because, it would be like saying, Katie, how much does it cost to bake a cake? Well, Tony, what kind of cake you want? You want a 4-tier cake? You want like a Duncan Hines?
Yeah.
There's all sorts of different variety, but I will ask the agent and the homeowner, like, do we want this to be the like best job or we want this to be the like good enough job, right? Sometimes like just a coat of paint may be all we need to get a house ready in a $300,000 price point, right? And some fresh carpet. And obviously in a high-end home, there are different levels, right? So there's different levels of painters, right? Different levels of finish. So I'm very clear in my expectations when I ask the homeowner, like, what are we looking for? And the neighborhood will tell us some of that as well, too.
Sure.
So we'll work with you to figure out what works for the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a consultation. We go, hey, based off of what we see here, this is what we recommend. 10 items, we'll make it up. I'm guessing they get to kind of pick and choose which ones they want to do, or is it all together one package?
We prioritize, right? So we'll work with you as the agent to figure out like what the things that are going to move the needle the most are. Kitchen sell houses and paint neutralization is super duper important. So long as we've knocked those out, sometimes you have, the guy who wants to sell the house, who he's lived in it for 40 years and he's really proud that like my house is well maintained. Like Katie, it is a well greased machine. My HVAC's in great shape and my roof and whatever, but he just hasn't done anything to make it pretty. We're really good at helping to make things pretty,
Sure.
But you don't have to have 100% solution. We sold a house in the Dominion the other day we sold a house. I didn't sell the house, right? Renovated the house, excuse me. But this house was worth about $850,000 before we renovated it, worth 1.13 after, sold 6 days after being on the market. And that sucker had carpet in the living room. We didn't touch the master bathroom. It looked like a 1970s time capsule. It had that super hunter green tile, gold brass fixtures everywhere, mirrors everywhere, super outdated. But we made the kitchen a showpiece. We refinished the hardwood floors. We put in some new lighting fixtures. So if you can make, a lot of times that you pick the strategy that works best, right? That's a strategy. I've also done some flooring strategies before where maybe you've had a property where the homeowner tried to do it themselves and they fell short. And so the agent's just been like, we just need like LVP everywhere, LVP. So maybe that's a strategy.
Yeah.
But we pick a strategy that makes sense for the property and the community.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how does the client pay for this? Is it upfront?
Great
Is it closing? How does that work?
Well, most of your clients, I assume, have the cash to do this, right, Tony?
Yeah,
Like,
I
just rolling in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, most
Not
people.
quite.
Most people do not have money. So we actually partner with a third-party finance company. It's integrated into our website. So when you go to renovationsells.com/San Antonio, you'll see my face,
All right.
and then you'll learn a little bit about our finance program. So currently, it's up to $50,000 per person. And so let's say you have a husband and wife. Husband can apply, wife can apply. We can add those together. And then basically they'll go online and apply whatever approvals they get. We can take that total amount. No payments. They can receive immediate access to the funds. So I can apply in about 3 minutes is usually what it takes. And then no payments for them for 6 months after we complete the renovations. So I'll go and do all the reno, and then they get another 6 months. So basically 6 months of your house being renovated on the market. 100% of my clients who have taken advantage of the finance program have made it in that time frame. I had one gentleman that came close. He was asking too much money for his house, and his agent told him the same. But everybody else, usually our stuff in comparison to as-is properties, they sell much, much quicker.
It's pretty much 6 months of no payment.
Yep.
And you should sell your house within that time
Correct.
and make that money and be able to pay it off.
And it does not get reported to the Bureau, so it does not affect pre-qualification, because I know loan officers are probably gasping and they're going, Katie, why would you tell people who are selling a house because they're going to buy another house? It's designed for sellers, so it does not get reported to the Bureau, so it does not affect your pre-qual. So you can go and qualify for the house of your dreams. It is literally designed for this. And so I'll tell you, before I had this finance program, because I didn't have it when I first started, I was losing about half those jobs.
Sure.
Because not everybody has the money for it.
Yep.
So it's a game changer, and it really is easy, and it's designed for speed.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Anything else that you would like to share with us about your business that we haven't touched?
I would just say, like, there's a lot of agents out there that are just working twice as hard trying to sell a house as is. The market is particular right now. It's always been a good market to do pre-sale renovations, because again, the client is pocketing the equity instead of the buyer.
Sure.
But right now, especially, people don't want a project. They're going to pay what the interest rates are right now. They're not looking at a fixer-upper. And so if that's what you have listed, it's going to sit there for a long time, especially high-end luxury. Nobody wants to buy a $1 million house and have it look like that.
Yep.
So there's two strategies. Everything sells for the right price, but you'll make more money, and you as the agent, you're going to work a whole lot less selling a house that has these updates as you would selling one as is. So be willing to have that conversation with your client, because it's scary, right? To be like, I think you should spend thousands of money on your house. Like, nobody wants to do that.
Right.
But your fiduciary interest is in their success. And so tell them this is something that you can do where if you spend money, you will make money.
Yeah.
But we have to do it in the right way. We're not going to move walls and do additions and all this crazy stuff. We're going to make it work with what they have. And there are some properties that are better candidates than others. And I'll tell people too, I've walked properties before with agents, and I'm like, I don't really think I can help you here, because the amount of money you would have to spend if you have too much deferred maintenance, like, it's just not worth it. Some properties are better as a real estate investment flip, but at least be willing to have that conversation, especially if you see something that is in really good shape, but it's simply out of date, or it's builder's grade. Those are phenomenal candidates. So be willing to talk to your clients and be willing to suggest this, and we can consider it, and it's up to them. They still have to decide. But the best agents that I see that are selling properties that go quickly and they follow this strategy, they have the tough conversations. So I would just say, have the tough conversations.
I think that this market is prime for this because we have a lot of boomers that have been in their house for years. and they're getting ready to sell.
Yep.
They probably haven't updated. And then you have a lot of millennials that are ready to buy.
Yep.
But they want to see the pretty stuff.
Instagram,
Right.
man.
Yeah,
They
it's
want to
like, oh,
see.
pretty.
Yes. They
Yeah.
want to see what luxury home mag.
Yeah.
Because that's what they can afford, right? First time home buyers. So yeah, I mean, people have these ideas in their head about like what they want, and it definitely isn't the old, outdated house. And I think that's hard too for older generations to understand, right? When you're in your 60s, because back then they valued that it was well maintained.
Right.
Kids don't care. They want it to look pretty. They want it to look like what they see on Snapchat or Insta or whatever.
Right.
So you're missing the market if you're just leaving it as is, because millennials they're not even going to look. So do your job as an agent to increase your pool of potential buyers by making it a neutral, blank palette that's modern. And so that way you can really command the offer that you want and then get it sold quick.
For sure. Especially in this market that houses are sitting longer. It's you want to stand out and be the pretty house that people want to look at.
Absolutely.
Well, that was awesome. I really appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
A lot of great information. If they want to get a hold of you, how can they find you?
Well, they can call me. So 210-452-2096. Feel free and shoot me a text. You can also check out renovationsells.com/San Antonio. We've got a beautiful before and after gallery. And if you want to see some recent San Antonio specials, I'm happy to send you some more information as well. You can email me at Katie, Katie, at renovationsells.com. So happy to be a resource for you guys if I can. And yeah, I help you to get those properties sold.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Guys, that's the show. I hope you enjoyed it. A lot of great information. Share this with a friend that's looking to update their house. Share it with an agent that's looking to sell more houses. Leave us a review. Give us a rating. That really helps us grow the show. Make sure to join us on our private Facebook group called The Productive Agents, and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We thank you for joining us today. Now let's get out there and go produce.